search on Google search. Sounds pretty simple and, kind of elementary, but it's true. Do a Google search. See if there's anything else in the market that solves the same problem. See if your product, how it matches up to it. Think to yourself, how many, going back to mass market, how many people does this reach? Does it solve a real problem? A lot of times when we evaluate, we're looking at, is this solving an annoyance? Is it something that it just happens and it'd be nice to have? Or is it solving a problem that really annoys you and gets to you on a fairly frequent basis? And honestly, another thing, Brian, too, very, very important, is it priced right? And that goes back to the company that you're pitching it to. All-Star, I can only speak for All-Star, but we're a short-form DRTV company, so we only market $19.95 and below. So the product that you're bringing to All-Star, if that's the case, cost of goods has to be in line. So you're talking a pretty low cost of goods.
Okay. I always give this type of scenario, John. I'm going to keep it really to a minimum here, but let's say I come up with a woman's heel, some kind of unique functionality to a woman's heel.
Okay.
So, you think about it right away. You're limiting your window of opportunity. It's not all men, and it's pretty much all women, and it's really no men, right? Because you're talking about a woman's heel. Then, there's the functionality of it. Is it something that's going to attach? That makes it more marketable for the women. But if it's specifically for a unique design that's connected to it, then it's also another factor where you have to consider, look, there's millions of shoes out there. Is that design really going to be appealing to somebody else, even though it has that function? So it seems like whatever it is always something that could be used with something else and not exactly by itself.
Right? And we tackle that a lot. There's certain products that, like you said, the heel's a good example, or even a shoe, for example. There's slippers, things like that. You need to make sure it has that mass appeal. If you're bringing fashion into the mix, it's another barrier to entry. It's another thing that someone has to consider. And you could bring a product that, like the heel idea, that fits every shoe. They don't have to think twice about it, and it solves a problem for them, and doesn't alter the way their foot or their shoe looks. You're going to have a much easier time of marketing that product if, let's say, it only works on kiddie heels. I learned that term recently at All-Star. I didn't know that before, but a kiddie heel, for example.
Okay.
You could really, having it more universal, less sizes, definitely makes it a lot easier.
Speaking of kiddie, tell me tell me some of the products that All-Star Products Group has been involved with in the kids arena. And I know that some of them have been pretty successful. And why have they been successful? Since we're talking about mass appeal, but you're focused just on kids. Now, not everybody has kids.
Mm-hmm. And that's what makes the kids category is a tough one to pin down. It doesn't really follow your traditional DR, all those metrics I gave you before, all the criteria, because, the challenge is, kids can't order off the TV. So you have to market to a kid through a kid network, and then have them then tell their parents they want it and have their parents order it. So you're having a lot more barriers to entry for that product. A couple of good examples of some success stories that we've had. Bendaroos was big for us. It's the bendable kids toy, almost like a building block in a way, like building sticks. Great product, inexpensive to manufacture. Small retail box. You could put a ton of them on the retail shelves. And it was appealing to kids. It really was. Another one for us years ago was Touch and Brush. It's the touch-free toothpaste dispenser that sticks to your wall. We co-branded that with some Nickelodeon, I believe SpongeBob, or maybe Dora was on there. So we don't do a lot of kids. We are looking for the next kid hit. It's just a tough way to evaluate, but we've done it, and we are looking for the next one, so everyone keep that in mind.
So, when you're thinking about mass appeal, you're talking about tortillas, and not everybody in the country eats tortillas. You're talking about kids' products. Not everybody has kids. Mm-hmm. So what's when you're saying mass appeal, I mean, it seems like certain categories have enough mass appeal to really just consider them mass appeal.
Yeah, when I say mass, I mean, we're never going to, sell a product that fits everybody's needs. Thinking that would just be unrealistic. But we can do our best to serve as many people as we can, and through the marketing behind it, maybe some people don't think they have that problem, and maybe some people don't really necessarily think that they want to make a tortilla basket, but through our marketing, we will, I guess, in a way, create that sense of urgency.
Okay.
But yeah, we can't appeal to everybody. It's a matter of really appealing to as many as you can. And maybe, honestly, more than anything, is having that mindset of mass appeal. You really got to pitch to as many as you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I mean, it's also trial and error. It sounds to me from speaking to you prior to the show that there's different ways for you to really test when you're saying that you're doing marketing research. There also may be different commercials that you put on in certain areas, like you'll put a little bit of investment into a commercial and test it in certain areas and see what kind of response you get to see if you're going to pursue it even further. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So as far as testing, and this is pretty standard throughout the industry, not specific to All-Star, but when you build a commercial and you market it on TV, you're not just throwing it on any random channel to get to whoever. You're also targeting the consumer that you're going after. So many times, so if it's a kid's item, like I mentioned before, you probably wouldn't be pitching that on a military channel or something that does kids related. You're going to be your Nickelodeon, your Cartoon Networks. If it's a cooking item, or maybe that's better yet, male-oriented item, you're going to put it on some ESPN2, Fox News channel maybe. So you're tailoring the commercial where you're pitching it to the consumer that you're going after.
Okay.
And as far as testing, there's multiple ways of doing that. There's, this is pretty standard throughout the industry too. There's surveys you can do and to gauge interest, and eventually gets to TV and it's tested. We tailor it to the consumer that we're going after.
Okay. We started a little earlier in the show to talk about when I have an idea and I present it to you, what happens. And you started off by saying to Google it. That sounds to me like an inventor can just have an idea in their head, Google it, and then send it over to you. Is that sufficient enough to present an idea to you?
I meant as far as Googling, when I mentioned Google before, is doing your research to make sure that, I can't even count how many times it's happened where people bring to me their idea, and I've seen, not maybe the same exact thing, but I've seen, pretty products that solve the same problem this pretty similar way, and it just shows me that the research wasn't done before it. So as far as Googling, just make sure you do the research before to make sure that it doesn't already exist in Walmart. It's not already been selling for the last 20 years on Amazon or whatever it may be in retail. It's about doing the research to make sure that it's unique.
Absolutely. So once they end up finding out that it's unique, what happens next? Typically from an inventor's perspective, they like to get some sort of intellectual property, possibly before they present to you, maybe having what you said before, having a prototype. If they're on the other side of the country and not able to pitch to you in person, maybe there's other ways to present to you. What's your take on that, John?
Of course, yeah. So, one of the major things I get is, do I need a patent? The answer to that is no. And that's for all. And again, I can only speak on All-Star's behalf. But from what I know and I understand it, everyone else in the industry, along with ourselves, you don't require a patent. What we do, though, provide to you as far as safety, because obviously if you don't have a patent, you're going to be worried about that product going elsewhere. We will sign a non-disclosure agreement. Send that over to you. You could review it. So we can protect you that way and make you feel a little more comfortable. As far as a prototype is concerned, again, only specific to All-Star, we would like to see things in a more of a finished state. So things that come across to me on graph paper and napkins and all that good stuff, but we would like to see something maybe in the prototyping stage. Not to say that you have to go out and get it manufactured overseas. I've had people build things in their garage for me. Basically a proof of concept. Proof of concept to make sure that the idea that you're pitching me will do and say what it's supposed to.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be a finished product. It could be a prototype, and it could be a respectable prototype. It doesn't have to be a perfected prototype. It has to just function and do what you expect it to do, and just so you can visualize it and get the idea. These days, a lot of people have these 3D drawings where, things can flip upside down, left, right, hang from the ceiling. They do all these different things from the 3D drawings. Is that acceptable to you, John?
What happens a lot with those is that people will bring them to me and say, John, what's your initial interest? If you have some initial interest there, I'll explore making a prototype. And that's usually the route I like to take. I could put it in front of the team. I can evaluate based on what I have in front of me. But until I have something physical that works or works close to what it's supposed to, we can't make a true decision on the product until then. So I'll review it internally. I'll put it in front of the right people. But we're going to have to see something a little more finished. And I can tell you if it's something interests us or not. We're not there to waste anyone's time.
No, of course. And it sounds to me like you'd like to have some sort of proof of concept there. I mean, I'm sure that you get calls with people that are saying, I have an idea. Can you help me with my idea? And, like you said, you do a quick Google search and you find it online. You just help them.
Yeah, exactly. And, the challenge, too, Brian, is that, it's I would love to take an idea that's just kind of, everything sounds great, right? When you say, hey, John, I got this idea about this product that's going to solve this and that. Well, that's great, and I would love to see it. But I need to, I'd like to see it happen, but I need to see some proof of concept.
Right. You need the inventor to do their due diligence, and we speak about this on the show quite a bit, John, where you got to do your search. You said it before. Just do a simple Google search to start with, and then go to the next search engine and put in different variations of the concept that you have, descriptive ways, to see if they come up. And don't be afraid. If it comes up, move on to the next idea. If it's something that you have potential with, then you may want to gather that information, bring it to an intellectual property patent or agent, let them take a look at it and compare it to what you have and see if it's enough of a difference that you're not going to infringe on somebody's intellectual property. And if it's something that already exists for a certain amount of time, then it's public domain and it can't get any kind of protection. So really, it starts to get a little tight with you then, John, because what do you really need the inventor for if they don't have any intellectual property?
Well, I think I always tell everyone that I speak with, a lot of the products that come into the doors are from inventors and product sources. The value that every people like I'm speaking to now, they hold is their product. We could do all the Google searches and everything that we want. Bottom line is, though, when we do those searches, those are already out there. People already know them. It's the unique, different, new stuff that comes to us that really becomes the winners, that really stands out in the market. We do our own research. We try to find things in the little odds, the dark places of the internet. But those are few and far between. It's stuff that comes from people like yourself. That's a lot of the products that we have.
Okay. So You're okay with bringing it up to the prototype stage. What about the intellectual property? How serious is that to you when we're presenting a product to you?
Quite honestly, we don't require it. You could have no patents whatsoever. Most come to us though patent pending. You could have neither, because we're going to do our due diligence. If we decide to work with it, we're going to do our due diligence on our end to make sure that we're not infringing or anything along those lines. So we don't require it. I know that makes people worry about All-Star or another company taking off with their product. And I'm speaking on All-Star's behalf. The product is safe. Once it comes to All-Star, it doesn't go anywhere else.
Okay.
I can assure you that. But that's why we sign the NDAs and make you feel a little more comfortable.
Okay. I have a question from a listener. It's Mason from Georgia, and they're asking about non-disclosure agreements. So I think this is a perfect segue into that question. So if I have a product and I'm presenting it to All-Star, do they sign a non-disclosure agreement?
Yes,